Counter-Strike is a very dynamic sport, and a player who was at their peak just a year ago could now just as easily be completely out of the big leagues. But it's still important to remember their names. For instance, Markelov finished his career 5 years ago, but his legacy is more than alive. Our original video about Yegor got a whole million views. But today, we'll talk about one of the most spectacular oppers in Counter-Strike history. Other players didn't understand what they could do to counter him, and Valve eventually gave up and released an update with the sole purpose to nerf him. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe because you're watching CYBERSHOKE, and today we'll talk about why kennyS is a legend. CYBERSHOKE is a leading platform for warming up and training in Counter-Strike. We have 25 different game modes that are great for just chilling and relaxing or sharpening your skills. We also have a premium subscription that doesn't give you any advantages over other players, but opens a lot of cool features. For instance, you can complete missions for skins or connect to pro players. Also, for those of you who have Telegram, be sure to activate our bot via the link in the description. It's a special bot where we'll announce an upcoming pick'em challenge for IEM Cologne and maybe give away some cool stuff. We want to point out that this video is not a biography of kennyS. We won't discuss his very first teams or which gaming clubs he visited growing up. Instead, we'll focus on one thing: how he managed to etch his name into the Counter-Strike Hall of Fame. We're not trying to belittle Kenny's accomplishments in any way, but we still want to point out that he was in the right place at the right time. Here's what we mean by that. Kenny was born in 1995 and loved Counter-Strike since childhood. In 2012, he reached the ideal age for esports, when you already have some experience, but your aim is still insane. French players, by the way, preferred to play CS Source, while the rest of the world chose 1.6. At that time, Kenny was an ordinary guy from Team Extensive who couldn't even win at small local LANs. But then, one time he got a great opportunity. Let's talk about that and why it was so important. You probably won't be surprised if we tell you that French players dominated all the big events in CS Source. A team called Very Games was their powerhouse. By the spring of 2012, these guys reached a streak of 9 first places in a row. They were true superstars, and everyone else was trying to mimic how they played. 16-year-old Kenny from a small town Digne-les-Bains didn't even dream of being invited there. One time, his team actually stumbled upon Very Games at a small tournament in the town of Arles. There, Kenny's team easily defeated every opponent on their way to the grand final, but suffered a crushing defeat from Very Games. Soon, local journalists started to report that Kenny actually played test pracs with Very Games and failed at them due to his lack of experience. The guys acknowledged his great aim, but made it clear that they didn't want to take on the risk of signing such a young player. Some people even teased Kenny about it, like, "Here at a local Tier 3 level, you make awesome highlights, but a really strong team thinks you're inexperienced." But in April 2012, Very Games had a fatal loss at a tournament in Copenhagen. The whole community was sure that these guys would easily take first place and earn a big trophy for the 10th time in a row. But something strange happened. Suffering 2 unexpected losses, Very Games got knocked out of the competition, ending in 12th place. The guys lost so early that they didn't even qualify for a cut of the prize money. Here's how Vacarme, the oldest media about French CS, described it. "It's very hard for Very Games. It's a true nightmare that shocked the whole European community. They were playing so poor that we would all prefer to just forget about it." Obviously, losing a tournament that bad is rough, but let's not forget that before that, Very Games had 9 trophies in a row. Is it even possible that one little failure like that could bring on any changes to the team? Well, turns out yes. And it's finally time to talk about that opportunity that was given to Kenny. You won't believe this, but MK, a Very Games player, actually decided to steal a PC right after that tournament. That story quickly got leaked to the media, and now the organization had no choice but to kick him. So here we are. Because of a strange and unexpected loss, and also because of a stolen PC, the best CS Source team in the world suddenly had a vacant spot. This French-speaking team wanted to sign a player who would run around the map with an op and kill everyone in his path. Bingo! In April 2012, Kenny signed a contract with Very Games, who just 5 months earlier had refused to bring him in. At the age of 16, our hero got into the best team in the world. And that wouldn't have happened if their previous player didn't steal that PC. Now, Kenny was playing alongside NBK and RBK under the wing of one of the greatest minds of Counter-Strike ever existence. Kenny was one of the best aimers in the world, but sadly lacked experience. This was one of the main reasons why he didn't win a lot with his previous teams. But now he was playing with true veterans who taught him a lot. Now Very Games had a lean, mean killing machine on their hands with a group of great teachers, and it was a hell of a combination. It's also important to understand that back then, Counter-Strike was going through some of the most turbulent times in the whole history of the franchise. Valve basically came up and said, "Hey, from now on, we won't support old versions of CS, so you guys have to move to CSGO." But CSGO had so many bugs that many people stayed in 1.6 because they were sure that the new CS would drown in its own problems. It was a bit easier for players from CS Source to make the transfer, since CSGO was built on the same engine and esports in Source wasn't as developed as it was in 1.6. But it soon became clear that CS Source was not going to win the battle between CS 1.6 and CSGO, so all the players from each version gave up their careers and made the switch to Go. At the start, CSGO was a total mess. It looked like good old Counter-Strike, but it felt completely different. Many things that worked in 1.6 or Source were now useless. Players had to learn the game from scratch, and many veterans didn't handle this task well. On the other hand, young and motivated guys like Kenny were shining in these unstable times. Just look at his stats in the first few years after his switch to CSGO. At that time, Kenny became one of the most popular players in the world because he did what people love the most: quick and stunning frags.
They need to go big, and Kenny's gonna go ahead and peek in a second, and he gets the flick on his Zipnix lightning fast!
kennyS, you can see he's going for that kind of 1.6 style peak before the smash.
Oh
my
wow.
God! How on earth did he see that? Who is this guy?
Look at this.
Reactions, okay, but let's go ahead and let's enjoy, once again, this fine bouquet. It's Kenny. Look at that. Just boom.
He started to call himself the Magician and even played with this nickname in some official games. He also tagged his op skins as Magic Stick. He used to say, "Magic is something you can't see. You can say the same about me. Doing magic is my playstyle." Not many players get to brag about how Valve had to change Counter-Strike because their playing was so damn good. kennyS is one of those rare exceptions. In March of 2015, Valve released an update that, as many analysts said, wouldn't have ever seen the light of day if not for Kenny. But what exactly did he do that made people call that update the kennyS nerf? For example, a couple of years ago, Valve reduced the amount of bullets in the op from 10 to 5. At that time, ZywOo was the best sniper in the world, but the community didn't go and name that update the ZywOo nerf. So, in order to understand this whole thing, you need to know exactly how kennyS played. As we said earlier, his favorite style was aggression, but this is just a small aspect of it. For instance, JW could sometimes be a lot more aggressive than Kenny.
Stabilize that bank account, being some close rounds. It's going to be Pronax onto the Famous there. Still JW with that AWP though. He's going on short though. He's been boosted up, going for the aggressive pick, and actually goes all the way towards suicide and gets a huge headshot on the Carrigan there.
But our hero had a unique feature. He loved to peek again and again from one position. Take a look at one of his highlights. Here he is, peeking and trying to make a kill. Then he retreats for a while and quickly returns for one more peek. He set his game up in a way that every peek was like a chance to get a frag. In case he missed a shot, he could always just go back and the enemy wouldn't be able to catch him. So worst case scenario, Kenny would have just retreated without getting a frag. But sadly, that update from 2015 put an end to his playstyle. Firstly, the movement speed and scope was greatly reduced, from 150 to 100 points. Earlier, Kenny could make an aggressive peek in the scope, but now the player model was too slow for it. Secondly, Valve changed the core mechanics of getting slowed. Earlier, your deceleration from getting hit depended on the weapon you were holding, but now it also depended on your opponent's weapon. Like before that update, the sniper could peek one position again and again and couldn't get hit, but now enemies' bullets greatly slowed him down, so Kenny's playstyle became simply ineffective. By the way, we just wanted to point out that in this chapter, we borrowed a lot of material from Donald Vu Parkhurst's video about kennyS. If you want to dive deeper into the technical side of how Kenny played and how that update affected him, be sure to check out his video. We'll leave a link in the description. But yeah, there's actually a lot more interesting stories from Kenny's career. For instance, Very Games actually kicked him after a year and a half, which was a hard slap in the face for our hero. He kind of stopped listening to his teammates, and the guys just had to say goodbye to him. Or there was the time when the French scene was obsessed with the idea of gathering a super team, and because of the fact that Kenny was the only superstar opper from France, he often ended up in an individually strong roster with moderate team play. In 2015, he managed to win a major and received an MVP medal. We didn't tell these other stories today, but if you want to know more about Kenny and his career, please drop a comment. To be honest, we're not really sure whether we should make another kennyS video that covers his whole career from beginning to end, so we would really appreciate your thoughts and feedback in the comments. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, because you are watching CyberShoke. Bye for now, guys.